The anime begins with a young boy named Saiki Kusuo. He is no ordinary kid because he has amazing powers. Saiki is a psychic, which means he can read people's thoughts and move things just by thinking about them. Even as a baby, Saiki was very special. When he was only 1 month old, he could float in the air. By the time he was 6 months old, he could make things move without touching them. With such awesome powers, you might think Seiki's life would be super easy. But it's not. Things get tricky at home because his parents keep arguing and causing a lot of trouble. Saiki might have amazing abilities, but his life is far from perfect. At school, Saiki tries to keep his powers a secret. He just wants to be a normal student and not stand out too much. This is because something happened in kindergarten that scared him. Back then, Saiki used his mind-reading power during a game of rock, paper, scissors and accidentally scared his teacher. Since then, he decided to keep his distance from others so they wouldn't find out about his abilities. Saiki has a classmate named Ricky Nendo. What's unusual about Nendo is that Saiki can't read his mind. This is because Nendo hardly ever thinks about anything. He's known as the silliest student in school, always doing funny things and getting really low grades. Another student in Seiki's class is Shun Kaido. Kaido is a little different. He likes to pretend he has a special superpower in his right hand and believes a secret evil group is chasing him. Because of Kaido's strange behavior, some of his classmates laugh at him behind his back. But Kaido doesn't seem to mind. He keeps acting like a hero, hoping his classmates will notice him and pay attention. In Seiki's class, some girls always want attention, especially from Saiki. Kokomi Terahashi often flirts with him, hoping to make him fall for her. Another girl, Chiyo Yumahara, also likes Saiki and tries to get close to him, but Saiki always finds ways to ignore them using his powers. Kaneshi Haro, one of Seiki's classmates, is full of energy and loves sports. He always works hard in every game because he dreams of becoming a champion someday. During sports lessons, Saiki has to control his powers carefully. His strength is so great that it could hurt someone if he's not careful. To keep a secret, Saiki uses his abilities to make everyone think his pink hair is just normal black hair and to hide the antennas on his head. These antennas are important because they help him manage his powers and save his energy. Keeping everything under control is part of Seiki's everyday life. One day, Saiki was at the park and saw a magician doing a magic show. Curious, he decided to watch. But soon, the crowd realized the magician's tricks were fake, so everyone left except Saiki. Saiki noticed the magician still had a dove trapped in his hat, so he told him to take off the hat so the poor bird could breathe. After that, Saiki decided to show the magician his own magic-like abilities to teach him a lesson. The magician was amazed by what Saiki could do and asked Saiki to teach him how to improve his tricks. A few weeks later, Saiki was watching TV when he saw the same magician performing in a drama. This time, the magician's skills were much better than before, and it seemed like he had learned a lot. That same day, Seiki's parents asked him to stay home and watch the house because they were going to a wedding. Saiki didn't want to go with them because he knew there would be too many negative people at the event. Left alone, Saiki saw that the house was messy, so he decided to do all the chores, from washing clothes to taking out the trash. One day, Saiki saw a cockroach and got so scared that he teleported to another country to escape it. He hates insects because he can't read their minds, and they really bother him. Later, Nendo came to help him deal with the cockroach. After the problem was solved, Saiki coldly told Nendo to go home. The next day, Nendo came back to Seiki's house to invite him to the beach. Seiki's mom was so happy to see Nendo because she thought it was nice that Saiki finally had a friend. At first, Saiki didn't want to go, but his mom insisted, so he had no choice but to agree. When they got to the beach, Saiki realized that Nendo's real plan was to meet girls in bikinis and show off. Somehow, Nendo's plan worked because Saiki ended up saving 3 of their classmates from drowning, which made everyone really impressed. The next day, Haro came to Saiki to talk about the upcoming school sports festival. He proudly said he had built the wooden gate for the event himself, but when he checked it, he found that the gate was broken. Haro asked Saiki to help fix the gate while he went to find more wood. Saiki used his strength to fix part of the gate and waited for Haro while reading a book. But Haro didn't come back even by late afternoon. Saiki discovered that Haro had gone to the forest to collect wood because all the stores were already closed. Haro's classmates admired him for working so hard and being so enthusiastic about preparing for the event, which would take place in a month. The next day, Saiki noticed Nindo acting very strange. Curious, he and Kaido decided to follow him. They found out that Nindo was feeling sad because he missed his father, who had passed away in a car accident before Nindo was born. Nindo had bought flowers to visit his father's grave. One evening, when Saiki got home from school, he found a strange letter. The letter said that someone knew about his psychic powers. Curious, Saiki took off his fake gloves, which he usually wore to avoid accidentally reading memories from things he touched. Before Saiki could read the letter's memory, the person who wrote it suddenly appeared in his room. It was a boy named Reita Toritsuka. Reita had a special power that he could see ghosts and other supernatural beings. Reita had this ability since he was a kid, but it often caused problems. Sometimes he couldn't tell the difference between humans and ghosts, so he had a habit of touching people to check if they were real. The next day, Saiki was surprised to see Reita at school as a new student. Saiki decided to make Reita promise to keep his powers a secret. But Reita had other plans. He wanted to tell everyone about his own abilities to become popular at school. The following day, Saiki received a warning about a huge explosion that could happen in his town. To stop it, he decided to remove a small stone, which was the cause of everything. If the stone stayed, a girl would trip on it, causing a truck driver to lose control and crash into a gas tank. Then, a motorcyclist would get distracted by seeing the girl's underwear and accidentally crash into the spilled gasoline, creating a massive explosion. After Saiki removed the stone, he got another warning about a big fire at his school. It all started with Nindo bringing a small stone to school. Kido would throw the stone into the hallway, where a child would slip on it. The stone would then hit a lamp, which would break and cause sparks to fall into kerosene that Haro was carrying. This would start a fire. Luckily, Saiki acted just in time. He stopped the spark from falling into the kerosene and saved the school from catching fire. Once again, Saiki quietly became the hero of the day. The next day, Reita felt frustrated because the girls at school weren't impressed by his powers anymore. He asked Saiki to hypnotize them for him, but Saiki refused. Desperate, Reita used another power to bring different spirits into his body. He let the spirit of a charming playboy and a charismatic man take over to impress the girl he liked. After school, Saiki went to a mini-market to buy his favorite coffee pudding. He carefully checked each pudding to find the best quality one. Saiki loves coffee pudding so much that he's willing to spend extra money on premium ones. He takes great care of his pudding to make sure it doesn't get ruined. In Seiki's class, a girl named Chisato Mera often turns down invitations to hang out because she has to work part-time to help her family. One day, Saiki accidentally saw Mera working at a cafe. She immediately asked him to keep her part-time job a secret because their school has strict rules that don't allow students to work. Saiki agreed to help Mera. He even used his powers to make teachers and students forget about the school rule so that Mera wouldn't get in trouble. Thanks to Saiki, Mera could keep her job and support her family without worry. Lately, Seiki's mom has been tricked by fake salesmen who sell her useless products. She keeps spending a lot of money on these scams, and Saiki feels bad for her. To help, he uses his powers to make her hear the salesman's real thoughts. This way, she can tell they're lying and won't fall for their tricks anymore. When one of the salesmen runs away, Saiki notices a strange ring the man left behind. Saiki discovers that the ring blocks his telepathic powers. Excited, he decides to use the ring to visit a place he's always wanted to go, which is the cinema. Since he was little, Saiki has wanted to watch movies in theaters. But every time he tried, he would get frustrated. The staff often thought about spoilers, ruining the story for him, and the noisy thoughts of the audience made it hard for him to focus. With the ring, Seiki's telepathy is blocked. He can finally enjoy watching a movie in the cinema without worrying about spoilers or noisy thoughts ruining his experience. At the cinema, Saiki unexpectedly runs into Kokomi, who happens to have a seat near him. Not long after, her older brother, a famous actor, suddenly shows up and causes a big commotion in the theater. Kokomi's brother is jealous of how close Kokomi seems to be with Saiki. Because of this, he later visits Seiki's house and demands that Saiki stay away from Kokomi, claiming that she belongs to him. At school, Students start talking about a popular fortune-telling service that claims to reveal people's future or past. Kaido loudly declares he's not interested, insisting it's part of an evil plan by a secret organization. But to Seiki's surprise, he later finds Kaido waiting in line for the same fortune-telling service. Curious, Saiki decides to follow him inside to see what's really going on. After watching for a while, Saiki realized that the fortune-telling service was just a scam. They tricked people into buying fake items by saying the items could bring good luck. For Kaido, the fortune teller claimed that a magic necklace would help him make new friends and solve his loneliness. Kaido bought the necklace, and not long after, he ran into Nindo and Saiki. Believing the necklace worked, Kaido was thrilled. Soon after, Kokomi showed up and offered to join them. She suggested they all go out for ramen together. But when they arrived at the ramen shop, it was super crowded and the ramen wasn't very tasty. Kokomi got tired and decided to head home right after they finished eating. On their way back, Saiki, Kaido, and Nindo ran into Kaido's mom. She invited them over to her house to enjoy some coffee putting together. While in Kaido's room, Nindo found a notebook filled with Kaido's wild imagination about a secret organization. Kaido's mom is very strict and always pushes him to study hard. She even asked Saiki and Nindo to help Kaido solve some study problems in his room. Luckily, Saiki quickly solved all the questions with his incredible intelligence. Kaido's mom was so impressed that she thought Saiki was a genius. She even encouraged Kaido to spend more time with Saiki and Nindo. One day, while walking along the sidewalk, Saiki heard someone's thoughts full of pain and frustration. The voice came from a magician Saiki had met before at the park near his school. The magician looked worried because his assistant couldn't perform in tonight's show due to a motorcycle accident and had to go to the hospital. The magician showed Saiki a magic box that was part of the act, but admitted he didn't know how the trick worked. He seemed completely lost about what to do for the performance. Because of that, Saiki reluctantly decided to help the magician to ensure no one got hurt during the show and that everything went smoothly. However, things took a turn when Nindo volunteered to be the magician's assistant. Seeing Nindo's clumsy nature, the magician panicked and gave up, canceling his trick. This made the audience angry, and they left the show, with some even scolding the magician. The show was a disaster. Luckily, Nindo's mother, who happened to be the magician's ex-wife, came to his rescue. She handed him a credit card he had once given her, helping him out of his tough situation. On Christmas Eve, Nindo came to Seiki's house to celebrate together. When Seiki's family learned that Nindo's father had passed away when he was a baby, Seiki's dad decided to cheer him up. He dressed up as Santa Claus and gave Nindo some gifts. To make it even more believable, Saiki used his powers to bring a deer to the front of their house. This convinced Nindo even more that Seiki's dad was really Santa Claus, making his Christmas Eve extra special. The next day, Saiki and his family went to the temple to pray and celebrate the new year. Seiki's dad prayed to win at gambling. His mom prayed for Saiki to make lots of friends, while Saiki, who didn't care much about religion, simply wished for one peaceful day. At the shrine, Saiki ran into Nindo, Kokomi, Kaido, and Haro. Seiki's mom was thrilled to see him with so many friends and invited everyone to their house for a meal. During the meal, Seiki's mom got too excited and accidentally mentioned that Saiki was a shaman. The room fell silent, and the mood became awkward. To fix the situation, Saiki used his telekinetic power to tip over a glass of water and distract everyone. That evening, after his friends left, Saiki decided to erase their memories about his powers using a magic memory eraser wand. But something went wrong that the wand didn't erase their memories. Instead, it replaced them with new ones, making his friends feel even closer to him and wanting to spend more time together. When Valentine's Day arrived, everyone at Seiki's school was excited about getting chocolate from their friends. Reito was confident he'd get lots of chocolate from the girls, but he ended up with nothing. The girls avoided him because they didn't like how he always tried to act charming. Meanwhile, Haro received lots of chocolate. Everyone appreciated him because he was always helpful and kind to his classmates. Kokomi, on the other hand, was followed by a group of boys hoping she would give them chocolate. But Kokomi only made chocolate for the person she liked, and that is Saiki. After thinking about it, though, she decided to throw the chocolate away because she worried it would cause trouble for him. During summer vacation, Saiki just wanted a peaceful day to relax. But his plan was ruined when the ghost of Nendo's father appeared and started bothering him. Saiki had to try several tricks to get rid of the spirit, so he could finally enjoy some quiet time. A few weeks after the holidays ended, it was time for the final semester exams at Seiki's school. During the tests, Saiki purposely cheated off other students to copy their wrong answers. This way, he wouldn't stand out too much as a genius. Even during the physical exam, Saiki held back his strength to make sure no one noticed how powerful he really was. After the exams, the school organized a sports festival, and Saiki had to join because his parents came to watch the event. During one of the matches, Nendo accidentally pulled out Seiki's antenna. Saiki immediately passed out, and satellites from around the world started malfunctioning. Thankfully, his friends quickly put the antenna back on his head, fixing everything. The antenna was what helped Saiki control his overwhelming powers and kept things from going out of control. A few days later, Seiki's dad begged him for help. He was running very late for work and wanted Saiki to teleport him to the office. Saiki finally agreed after his dad promised to buy him his favorite coffee pudding. When Saiki arrived at his dad's office, he saw the place was a mess. His dad and the other editors were rushing and nagging manga writers to finish their projects quickly. Just as Saiki was about to leave, his dad accidentally spilled coffee all over a stack of revised manga pages. Once again, he called Saiki to help clean up the mess. This is why Seiki's life isn't as easy as it seems, cause despite his psychic powers, the people around him always create problems that he has to fix. The next day, while Saiki was enjoying some quiet time at home, his new neighbor suddenly showed up and left her young son with him. Seiki's peaceful day was ruined. The boy was obsessed with a superhero called Soda Man and thought Saiki was the real-life Soda Man because he had seen him use his powers. Luckily, the boy didn't stay long. Nendo showed up, and his face looked just like the villain from the Soda Man series. The boy got scared, burst into tears, and ran home, finally leaving Saiki in peace. One night, Saiki went to a festival to buy his favorite snacks. But while he was there, a pickpocket stole his wallet, which left him feeling annoyed and embarrassed. Using his powers, Saiki transformed his wallet into an old, junky motorcycle to track down the thief. Once Saiki found the pickpocket, he reported him to the police and returned all the stolen wallets to their rightful owners. It turned out that some of the stolen wallets belonged to Kaido, Haro, and Nendo. The next day at school, the students were excitedly talking about the upcoming field trip plan for the next few weeks. During the group assignments, Saiki ended up in the same group as Nendo and Kaido because no one else wanted to team up with them. Meanwhile, Kokomi and Chio were brainstorming ways to get their group joined with Seiki's. Luckily for them, after the lottery draw, a group of girls wanted to swap because they didn't want to be with Nendo. Kokomi quickly volunteered to switch, hoping it would give her more chances to spend time with Saiki. One evening, while Saiki was having dinner with his parents, Kokomi's older brother showed up to complain. He was upset that Kokomi was going on a trip with Saiki. Tired of his silly behavior, Saiki decided to take Kokomi's brother's plane ticket and give it to Mera, who couldn't afford to buy one and looked sad about missing the trip. On the day of the trip, the plane Saiki and his classmates were supposed to board was delayed because of a typhoon. To cheer everyone up and get things back on track, Saiki used his powers to stop the typhoon, making the skies clear again. During the flight, Kaido started feeling sick and weak because he had forgotten to pack his medicine. Saiki quietly teleported to Kaido's room, grabbed the medicine, and gave it to him, helping him feel better quickly. After using a lot of energy with his powers, Saiki wanted to rest for a while during the flight. But then, he received a vision that the plane was about to crash. Saiki quickly gave up his rest and used his powers to lift the plane safely and bring it to the airport without anyone getting hurt. Once they arrived in the destination city, the students continued their journey by bus to the hotel where they would be staying. At the hotel, Seiki's group shared a room with another group of boys who seemed to be up to no good. These boys were planning to spy on the girls while they were bathing. They even brought a periscope to peek at them. Thankfully, Saiki used his powers to mess with their minds, making them accidentally aim the periscope at the boys' bath instead. They ended up seeing Nendo in a way they weren't prepared for, and the shocking sight left them completely embarrassed and regretful. That night, Saiki went to the beach to enjoy some peace and quiet after using his powers all day. He lay down to rest, but while he was asleep, Kokomi appeared and accidentally pulled out his antenna, causing him to lose control of his powers. While unconscious, Saiki unknowingly moved the entire hotel to the middle of the island, replacing it with a skull and a Titanic ship. Luckily, Saiki regained control in time and returned the hotel to its original spot before anyone noticed. Realizing what Kokomi had done, he searched for her. He found her in the forest, where she had wandered and was almost attacked by a bear. Saiki saved her just in time and made her fall asleep so she would believe everything that happened was just a dream. The next day, Saiki and his classmates went to the beach. The boys were thrilled to see Kokomi in a stunning bikini and couldn't stop staring at her. However, things took a turn when a group of men started bothering Kokomi and Chiyo. Saiki stepped in by controlling the men's minds, making them stop. Just then, Kaido appeared and scared the men away, looking like a hero. Everyone praised Kaido for his bravery, and Saiki quietly gave him a thumbs up, letting him take all the credit. Before the trip ended, Saiki wanted to try a special coffee-topped ice cream that the shop only sold 5 servings of each day. But when he got to the shop, he saw that Nindo, Kaido, Mera, Kokomi, and Chiyo had already ordered all the ice cream he wanted. Luckily, Seiki's friends were kind enough to share their ice cream with him. In the end, Saiki got even more ice cream than he expected and enjoyed it happily. A few days later, a new student named Arin Kobayasu joined Seiki's class. Arin used to be part of a gang and liked getting into fights with other thugs. But now, he's trying to turn over a new leaf and live a peaceful life at his new school. He's working hard to control his temper and not get angry or fight with anyone, especially his new classmates. In class, Arin didn't have any friends yet. When he tried to approach Saiki, Saiki gave him an uninterested look, which made Arin feel awkward. Thankfully, Haro, who is friendly and well-liked by everyone, welcomed Arin warmly and invited him to be friends. One day, Haro stood in front of the class and made an announcement about the upcoming school art festival. He asked everyone to come up with ideas for a performance or activity they could do together. After a lot of brainstorming and discussions, the class decided to hold an exhibition of unique-shaped stones. On the day of the festival, everyone brought their own special stones. There were stones shaped like hearts, roses, crystals, and even one with a blood stain brought by Arin, which surprised everyone. Later, when Nindo and Saiki were in the bathroom, Saiki accidentally took off his glasses and looked at Nindo. To his shock, Nindo turned into a stone statue. Saiki realized that his eyes had the power to turn anything he looked at into stone. The only way for Nindo to turn back to normal was to wait 24 hours. Saiki always wore glasses to keep his powers under control, but now he didn't have a backup pair. Thankfully, his dad came to visit the school fair, and Saiki borrowed his glasses. This way, Saiki could avoid accidentally turning anyone else into stone during the event. A few days later, Kaido saw Arin being threatened by some students from another school. Kaido panicked, not knowing what to do. But Arin, being a former thug, easily defeated them with no trouble at all. After that, Kaido started to see Arin differently. He noticed Arin was often covered in blood and began to suspect that Arin might be breaking the law. One afternoon, while Kaido and Saiki were walking home from school, they were harassed by some troublemakers from another school. The two tried to run away, but couldn't escape. Just then, Arin appeared in the area and immediately stepped in to help. He quickly took care of the troublemakers and saved Kaido and Saiki. Kaido realized he had misunderstood Arin, and from that day on, they became friends. Later, the school organized a 6-mile marathon with checkpoints at every mile as usual. Saiki held back his powers to avoid standing out and aimed for a spot in the middle of the ranks. Meanwhile, Nindo and Haro were fiercely competing for first place, while Kaido struggled just to finish the race without collapsing. After a long race, Haro came in first place, and Saiki finished comfortably in 44th place. The next day, Saiki had to go to a karaoke place with his friends because he wanted to buy coffee ice cream that was only sold there. When it was his turn to sing, Saiki turned off the lights on purpose and sneaked away to the toilet. But when he came back to the room, he found his friends had all passed out after hearing Nindo's terrible singing voice. Just as Saiki was about to enjoy his coffee ice cream, Haro insisted he sing again. To avoid singing, Saiki asked Nindo to join in. As soon as Nindo started singing, everyone ran out of the room to escape his awful voice. The following day, Kokomi's older brother visited Saiki and told him to stay away from downtown because there would be a filming session there. Kokomi and her brother were still arguing and hadn't spoken to each other, so her brother didn't want her to know he would be around. The next day, Kokomi saw a chance to ask Saiki out on a date as a way to apologize for the trouble her older brother had caused him. At that time, Saiki had no choice but to agree since he knew that if he refused, Kokomi might cause a scene. The following day, they went to a cake restaurant together. The place was quite crowded because Kokomi's fans had followed her there. Thanks to Kokomi's charm, they got to eat for free, and the shop even gave her a gift cake. After leaving the restaurant, they went to a bowling alley to play. While they were there, they almost ran into Kokomi's older brother, who happened to be at the same place. Saiki quickly used his power to make them invisible so her brother wouldn't see them. The next day, Kokomi came back to invite Saiki to eat cake again. But since Saiki was busy taking care of a little boy left by his neighbor, Kokomi gave the cake to the boy instead. At first, Kokomi tried to stay calm when the little boy accidentally called her auntie. But when he told her to be quiet, she got upset and decided to leave. Thankfully, before she went too far, the boy apologized and explained that he had mistaken her for a character from the Soda Man cartoon. One day, Seiki's dad found their cat passed out because something was stuck in its throat. Saiki quickly used his powers to shrink into a tiny human and went inside the cat's throat to remove the object. After saving the cat, Saiki had to wait an hour for his body to return to normal size. While waiting under a chair, Saiki saw a cockroach and panicked. He ran and hid inside his dad's robot toy to escape it. Luckily, the cat caught the cockroach and calmly killed it. Grateful for the cat's help, Saiki started to appreciate it more and even got to know it better. On Christmas Eve, Saiki went to his dad's workplace to help deliver gifts to the kids in their neighborhood. He made sure each child got exactly what they asked for, including one little boy who wished his parents would spend more time with him. After finishing all the deliveries, Saiki charged his dad a big fee for completing the job so perfectly. At that moment, Saiki planned to use the money to buy a new TV since his old one was broken. Even though he could fix it using his powers to reverse time, he'd have to do it every day, which would use up too much of his energy. When he got to the electronics store, Saiki saw a coffee pudding maker and couldn't resist. Instead of buying a TV, he bought the coffee pudding maker because he just couldn't say no to his favorite treat. One day at school, Rada excitedly told Saiki that his power to summon spirits had grown stronger. He could now call famous spirits like John Lennon, Bruce Lee, and Steve Jobs. But there was a problem that Rada often lost control, and other spirits could easily take over his body. When Saiki noticed that Rada was being possessed, he quickly helped by kicking him to get rid of the spirit. Afterward, Rada tried to find a new way to become popular at school. He decided to join a club, but every club rejected him. So he started his own club called the Paranormal Club. The members included Rada, Saiki, Kaido, and a strange girl who liked casting spells. One day, Seiki's class had a cooking lesson in groups. Saiki was excited because he thought he could make lots of delicious crepes. But it turned out he had no talent for cooking and ended up burning every single crepe he tried to make. In the afternoon, as Saiki was walking home from school, a group of young men secretly followed him. They were upset because they found out that Saiki had once gone out with Kokomi, who was their idol. The group decided to kidnap Saiki and make him promise to stay away from Kokomi. But Saiki used his powers to show them a photo of himself, Kokomi, and a little boy together, looking happy. Seeing Kokomi smile in the picture, the group changed their minds and decided to support Saiki, thinking he made her happy. A few days later, Saiki and his parents went to visit his grandparents at a hospital in a rural area. When they arrived, Seiki's grandfather suddenly acted distant and moved to another room. Saiki realized that his grandfather was a tsundere, which means someone who acts cold on the outside, but secretly cares deeply about their loved ones. Even though his grandfather seemed grumpy, he was actually very happy to see Saiki, but didn't know how to show it. Understanding this, Saiki decided to follow his grandfather to the other room and spend time with him, showing that he cared too. After that, Seiki's grandfather bought tickets to an amusement park hoping to make Saiki happy and excited. However, the park's rides were old and a bit unsafe, so every visitor had to sign a consent form before entering. They first rode a super-fast roller coaster, which left Seiki's dad feeling tired and dizzy. Then Saiki and his grandfather went on a spinning propeller ride. Even though the ride was shaky and dangerous, his grandfather tried his best to protect Saiki, holding on to him tightly. This made Saiki feel really happy because he could see how much his grandfather cared about him. The next day, as Seiki's grandparents drove him and his parents back to the city, their car suddenly ran out of gas. But Saiki quickly realized it was just part of his grandfather's plan to stop them from leaving. Luckily, Saiki had already read his grandfather's thoughts earlier. He secretly packed spare gas in the trunk, so they were able to refill the car and continue their journey home. Not long after, a landslide blocked the road Saiki and his family were traveling on. Saiki decided to use his powers to clear the path, surprising his grandparents with his abilities. At first, they were shocked, but they soon accepted Seiki's condition. Seiki's parents had wanted to tell his grandparents about his powers when he was little, but his older brother, Kusuke, had stopped them. One day, while Saiki was walking home from school, his antenna was accidentally damaged by a baseball. Without the antenna to control his powers, Saiki started losing control and accidentally destroyed objects around him. To fix the problem, his parents decided to take Saiki to London to meet the person who created the antenna, and it's his older brother, Kusuke. Once in London, Seiki's parents took the chance to enjoy a vacation and explore different places while they were there. At that time, Saiki planned to meet Kusuke alone, but before he could leave, Kusuke arrived to pick him up. Even though it had been years since they last saw each other, Saiki still didn't like Kusuke because they never got along. When Kusuke was born, everyone thought he was a genius. By the time he was 1 year old, he could already ride a bike and understand high school science. But when Saiki was born, Kusuke started to feel overshadowed because Seiki's psychic powers made him unbeatable. Frustrated, Kusuke decided to move to London to get away from Saiki. After Kusuke repaired Seiki's broken antenna, Saiki tried to read his brother's mind. However, Kusuke had created a way to block Seiki's psychic abilities, so Saiki couldn't figure out what he was thinking. A few days later, back at school, Arin and Nindo asked Saiki to join them in registering for the driving license exam during the school holidays. Saiki politely refused, making up an excuse that he didn't have enough money to take the test. Soon after, Mera invited Saiki to join a hospital volunteer activity. Haro asked him to practice tennis. Rada invited him to a paranormal club meeting, and Kokomi asked him to go on a date. Saiki turned down all their invitations because he wanted a peaceful holiday to relax. However, Rada begged Saiki again, and Saiki eventually gave in. Then, because all his friends had planned their activities on different days, Saiki ended up agreeing to join them all. His quiet holiday turned into a packed schedule. Saiki and his friends went through all the activities together. During the paranormal club meeting, Rada and Chio almost got chased by wild boars. At the tennis practice, Nindo and Haro fiercely competed with each other. Next, they volunteered at the hospital, where Nindo and Mera worked so hard they ended up burning a lot of calories. Then, they took the driving license exam, and Saiki was the only one who passed. Finally, Saiki went on a date with Kokomi, but the date didn't go as planned because a little boy kept interrupting, leaving Kokomi frustrated. After the school holidays, Seiki's class got a new student named Saiko, who was the only heir to the richest family in Japan. Saiko believed that money and wealth were more important than talent or hard work. He transferred to the school because he wanted Kokomi to be his girlfriend. However, when he found out that Kokomi liked Saiki, he became angry and used his influence to move Seiki's dad's office all the way to Siberia. Seiki's parents then told him they had to move to Siberia because they were being paid a lot of money to leave Japan. To fix the problem, Saiki decided to go to Saiko's house himself and teach him a lesson, leaving Saiko shaken and regretful. Later, Saiko had an important moment of learning thanks to Nindo. Nindo helped him understand that there are things in life that are far more valuable than money, like kindness and friendship. A few days later, Kaido invited Saiki and their classmates to a Halloween party at his house. But since they didn't really understand Halloween, Haro and Arin made costumes using plastic bags and toilet paper. Saiki and Nindo didn't even bother to dress up. They also had no idea what to do when kids came by saying trick or treat, so the kids ended up being sprayed with water guns instead. The next day, Saiki learned that the magician he met months ago had become a popular comedy magician. The magician realized he couldn't compete with real magicians like Saiki, so he focused on performing funny magic tricks to entertain people, which made him a hit. Later, Chio showed up looking completely different, that she had gained a lot of weight from eating too many snacks. Realizing this, Chio decided to work hard to lose weight and started exercising. To help her, Saiki used his powers to put thoughts of Kaido in her mind, which motivated her to slim down. But once she got back to her original weight, the Kaido in her mind took over, and she became strangely obsessed with being his servant. The next day, Saiki noticed his friends acting strangely around him. They kept suggesting different activities to do together. After looking into it, Saiki discovered that they were secretly planning a surprise birthday party, and it's for him. However, tomorrow wasn't Seiki's birthday, cause it was his dad's birthday. Saiki wanted to tell them, but when he saw how much effort they had put into planning the party complete with a cake, gifts, and heartfelt letters, he decided to go along with their plan. The following day, Saiki used his powers to hypnotize his friends into thinking his dad was him. He then asked his dad to pretend to be him and enjoy the party his friends had worked so hard to prepare. But during the party, Seiki's dad stopped pretending and encouraged Saiki to join the celebration. He explained that his friends had done everything with love and care for him. For the first time, Saiki felt proud of his dad for acting like a real father. The anime ends with Saiki sitting with his friends, happily celebrating his birthday together. The moral lesson from this anime is even if you can read minds, don't bother with cockroaches cause they have no thoughts, just vibes. So stay psychic but avoid the bug drama.